As a Leo, I really hang on every word I say. Okay, so a desire for community and the UU sixth source, which states, spiritual teachings of earth-centered traditions which celebrate the sacred circle of life and instruct us to live in harmony with rhythms of nature, is what drew me. This follower of the old ways, a lover of the earth and a priestess of the goddess, to the UU. So, I really need more help here. So I follow a mystery religion, or a spiritual path known as Wicca or witchcraft, and I am a witch. And I'm a pagan also, but I'm a witch. You know, as a witch, that means I'm a pagan, but I specialize in witchcraft. So there are some people who are pagans who maybe follow the Asatru or Druids, but I specialize in witchcraft. And that's kind of a body of pagan clergy as a witch. And I've spent years and years training and learning my craft. In fact, I've been doing this for, I don't know, 35 years. And have gone through very formal training. So before I talk to y'all about what Samhain, and it's pronounced Samhain, though it's spelled Samhain, means to me, I want to tell you a little bit about my overall belief system. So witches, we serve the primal will to good, which eternally creates and sustains the universe. And witchcraft is practical and grounded in everyday reality. As a witch, I belong to a circle of people in which there is no central authority, save the goddess herself. The Great Mother is the center of all, and this is a dynamic, evocative way of living in and perceiving the world. And witchcraft is a mystery tradition. In seeking out the mysteries, we accomplish the great work. And that great work is to know ourselves. We view life in terms of an archetypical reality. We learn to perceive and study patterns. We train and become skilled in different arts like healing, oracle work, teaching, for example. And we appreciate creation to the point of worship. Beyond the central concept of the Great Mother, the archetypical reality we enjoyed divides the divine feminine into three basic categories of the maiden, the mother, and the crone. Or in other words, child, mother, grandmother. This makes the divine more accessible to us, easier to relate to, as we see her reflected in us, in our lives, and in the world around us. We and all of creation are her children. So her consort in some trads is the god, the divine male, who is the archetypical terms is divided into two aspects, the Lord and the Lord, or the Oak King and the Holly King. So I also need to mention to you, before we can get into the Samhain, because you have to have this information to really understand what's happening today. We celebrate 8 Sabbats, and they encompass the entire year. And we call this the wheel of the year, because wheels are round, and nature is cyclical. So, you know, round, round, there's no real right triangles in the world, in nature. The wheel of the year is divided into 8 festivals, those 8 Sabbats, and is a common theme throughout the world. So these Sabbats are turning points in the wheel of the year. And, you know, the story for all ages, you know, was talking about Dios de los Muertos. Again, these are significant things that happen in the wheel that are recognized and celebrated in all cultures. So the festivals of the wheel of the year and the tradition I follow represent the active and dormant states of nature, man and agriculture. So each of the festival days was ruled by a governing deity. It could be a god or a goddess, with each culture having its own associated deities. From planting to reaping to winter to summer, the seasons were of great importance to our ancestors. For their very existence depended upon a good harvest, mild winters, and enough rainfall. And by the way, our own survival still does. But now we have stockpiles of food and transportation, and we're really very far removed from our food. Tradition, we consider Samhain to be the end of the year. And the word Samhain is a Gaelic term, and it quite literally means end of summer. So because the cycle is a wheel and we are at the end of the year, well, that also means that we are at the new year. So the wheel has these 8 pagan Sabbats and holidays. We'll just get through them. So we have Yule and Litha, or at the solstices. We have Mabon and Ostara at the equinoxes. And then we like to observe the cross-quarter holidays, which I like to call the Great Sabbats. They're at the midpoints between solstices and equinoxes. And Samhain is one of those cross-quarter holidays. And it is between Mabon and Yule. Okay, because these traditions come from agricultural societies, the observance of each of these festivals is closely tied to what is happening in the natural world at this time of year. Right now, what is happening around me? They celebrate the planting at Beltane, right? That's when we plant. The first harvest is at Lammas or Lunasa, and so on. Samhain is the last harvest. It is when everything is dying on the vine. And people, our ancestors, and me, made some very careful decisions about what parts of their herds to cull so that they could survive through a difficult winter and that the herd could carry on into the next spring. So Samhain can be thought of not as just a culling, but let's just call it what it really is. It is the blood harvest, or the death harvest. So Samhain as people considered the plants and animals nearing the ends of the cycles of their lives, they naturally, and we should all do that, think about the cycles of our own lives. It was believed that at this time of the year, that the veil between this world and the world of the dead was much thinner. And therefore, ghosts or our ancestors could cross over or speak, and you could speak with your ancestors, was thin enough that those who had gone before, that they can hear us and they can see us and sometimes speak across that great divide, and we could hear them. Many traditions, mine in particular, practices what is called a dumb supper, in which they will set out plates of food and feast with our dead. The table can be laid out outdoors, beautifully decorated for the season, dishes of your favorite ones, lost loves. Wait, did I hear that earlier? That happens in Dios de los Muertos. And when we can sit around and eat and drink and be merry in our own way and in our beloved dead's own way. We might carve pumpkins and invite our beloved dead to inhabit that vessel. So personally, for me, in real life, because I live in the middle of nowhere, I'm going to gather with a group of very close friends. And we're going to stand in a circle. And I'm going to pour out a libation on the ground for each one of them. And I'm going to cry, and we're going to laugh. And we're going to tell stories to each other. And we're going to sing songs. And every year, that aching place inside of us that is grief for those that we have lost, it has a moment that it can be soothed and a chance to breathe. It's a moment between one year and the next. It is a moment between the worlds of time and place when we come to a stillness and a communion. And it is that stillness, that inner quiet that we seek. Because for me, this dark season that is coming is the time to go within, to do that deeper, more personal work on ourselves. Like three four-legged brothers and sisters on this earth, Ella, we hibernate. It is this inside time for us. And we turn inward and we seek to find our own illumination there. It's easy to get distracted in the summer and in the warmer months. There's so much to do. There are festivals. There's just projects, things, stuff, vacation. But during this dark time now, during this time, we can also look within ourselves and take a look at our food, our own food. Not just what we're eating, but what is feeding us on a very mental, emotional, and spiritual level. We look internally at what is good for our survival and what is not. It's a time, for me at least, to cull the grief and guilt and shame that I've been carrying around for years. It's clearing negative things out to make room for more positive. Having the sacred somewhere else means that we forget how sacred and holy I am, and that nature is sacred and holy. Then we fail to see that divine within ourselves. So Samhain is a time to honor our sacredness, to honor and cull away what is not serving us, just as our ancestors culled the herd. We can identify the negative things we eternally say to ourselves and bid them farewell. Because this is a new year. It's a new beginning. Let us take time to prepare ourselves for the coming new year. As the light begins to fade, a different kind of work can begin. And what did you lose this year? What quiet places inside you are aching from neglect? We expend so much energy on the needs of others. Have we remembered to tend to our own flame? It's okay if the answer is no. I know it is for me. So in this time, I'm going to work on integration. I always work on integration, really. On trying to get all the pieces of me to be more cohesive and whole. It's a lifelong work. I have a sub-goal, too, of a deeper connection on every level to deity and to myself and to my life as a whole. It's the beginning of what I think of as my winter work, my time to do some repair and upgrades on myself. I realize that it may sound like a lot of work and a little corny, my words, but I take inner space exploration of winter very seriously. I mean, really seriously. Like, it's bad. Like, my wife sometimes says, really, can you just stop for a minute? Okay, but honoring the energy of the dark season doesn't have to be so elaborate as me. You don't have to be so, it can simply be finding a little space in your morning to set up an intention for your day, to choose stillness for just a moment. Or it could be turning off the TV, put away the phone a little earlier in the evening to allow for some quiet time. a space away from distraction and discussion. Start journaling. You know, talk to yourself. Do I do the things that I do? Or maybe it's time to read that book that you've been meaning to pick up. The season of death is also the season of renewal. You see, at Samhain, we go underground as well, but cycles occur in more than the world around us, right? So we're going in, but it's a circle, right? So we're always going to be coming out of it too. It's so easy to forget with all of our technology around us that we're not separate from it. And like the trees and animals, we need time to rest, nurture ourselves for that next growing season. We too grow weary after a long summer, and especially this one. We tire and we fade, and we need to go into that darkness for a time. We need to renew there. And we heal the wounds and tend the fires, and then we emerge again. And it is my hope to step out in spring as a better version of myself, a more authentic, a more grounded Blaze. Like that's ever going to happen. I think most of all, though. Someone speaks to the spark, that is within the dark, the loved ones that exist beyond the death, the light within us that shines on the darkest of days, and the comfort and warmth of a hearth on a cold night. This is the gift and the lesson of the season. That the wheel of the year turns, and we turn with it. That a journey into the night is not something to be feared. It is simply just part of the cycle. So may this season see you blessed with space, with peace, and with stillness. Then I wish a very blessed Samhain to you all. And thanks for not throwing anything at me.